The views and opinions expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of our partners, hosts, or affiliates. Our goal is to support short track racing and the dedicated men and women who make it possible, while providing entertainment for our listeners. Now, sit back, enjoy the show, and let's hear the stories.
And they made the comment to me, they said, one day you're going to wake up and realize that you spent your whole life with this racing deal and you haven't experienced anything else, and you've missed out on a lot of other things. And my comment back was, yeah, but I did exactly what I wanted to do.
Look, if you fight in a pitch, you're going to jail.
Right.
If you fight on the track, the winner gets $100, the loser gets $50.
It feels like your entire season, it feels like your entire life is riding on that ride.
It was an ordeal, and he was my race car friends. You always say, I'm going to do race car things with my race car friends,
I didn't realize how close the snowball came to going away.
It was very, very close. Very close. My claim to fame is I got to stop a NASCAR race for at least an hour.
It's considered the most prestigious short track race in America. And in December, the racing world will gather in Pensacola to etch their name in the history books forever.
It's the pinnacle of short track racing.
I want to know the stories. I want to hear the stories. Hey guys, welcome back to the Short Track Shakedown, brought to you today by Hunt the Front Super Dirt Series and Blackwater Bookkeeping. I'm Josh Goodwin alongside my good friend Jake Moore. Jake, how are you today, buddy?
A little bit under the weather, but I'm here.
Well, I'm thankful you're here. We have got a great show with a guest that is a former NASCAR driver. He has won at all three levels of the top NASCAR series. He's been a good friend of mine for a lot of years and has been just a tremendous person to me every time that we've got to interact. Is David Reutimann, and I really look forward to hearing his story.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. I mean, this is our first Cup Series driver we ever had on the show, and I'm anxious to see what he's got to say.
Absolutely. Well, let's get him on the phone, Jake.
Let's do it.
Race fans, mark your calendar for September the 26th and the 27th because the Hunt the Front Super Dirt Late Model Series is bringing a massive doubleheader to Southern Raceway in Milton, Florida. It's going to be historic. Series points leader and dirt late model legend Jimmy Owens is making his first ever appearance at Southern, leading a fierce title fight as the season heads into its home stretch.
Chasing him down are rising stars like Zach Mitchell and Corey Hedgecock, both also racing at Southern for the very first time. And they'll all be going wheel to wheel with local heroes like Joseph Joyner, Bo Slay, Colton Leyendecker, and more, defending home turf in what's shaping up to be one of the biggest dirt late model events the Gulf Coast has ever seen.
Make plans now to join us at Southern Raceway, September the 26th and 27th. You won't want to miss it. Well, David, thank you so much for being with us today at the Short Track Shakedown and calling in to do this interview. Where are you calling from today, bud?
Actually, I'm calling from relatively close to my shop. It was in Sherrill Ford, North Carolina. So yeah, I'm just calling in from there. So just sitting around doing a whole lot of nothing right now. So,
well, that is awesome. Well, I certainly do appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk with us. David, you've been really good to me over the years, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do this with me. And I really want to just kind of jump into your history. Tell me a little bit about growing up in a racing family with your dad being Buzzy Reutimann, and just tell me what that experience was like.
Well, it's kind of, it was normal for me, because, my grandfather had always raced and always my dad raced. So I was kind of raised around at racetracks and things of that nature. So, it was kind of second nature for me. I never had to wonder about what I was going to do when I got out of high school. And even beforehand, I was like, I wanted to race. So it was like, I didn't have to make the overall decision on what path I was going to choose. And not that path was chosen for me. I just wanted to be like my dad. I wanted to race. I wanted to be a part of something that was probably bigger than, me, even though I didn't really realize it at the time. Um, I wanted to be, just like my dad. And,
Right.
so that, that's really what it came down to. I mean, I didn't think, all I, as long as I got a chance to race on Friday and Saturday nights, I really didn't care about going NASCAR racing or anything like that. I mean, so just growing up, I mean, obviously my dad was raised up north a lot, and he would come back to Florida. So I was in and out of school. So it was kind of a nomadic life, for me growing up. But again, I didn't think nothing of it because most of the people I was around, kids and stuff like that, were just, I mean, their dads raced as well. So I was kind of odd to,
Just kind
it
of like
was
second
kind of
nature.
odd. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was just, it wasn't really that different than most people are brought up, I guess, really.
Right. Well, your dad, he raced skeeters, and what kind of cars was he driving when you were a kid?
Geez, primarily what I remember most is he raced like those the big block center steered modifieds. He raced most of that stuff up in New York and Pennsylvania. So I mean, obviously, my dad raced, at Golden Gate with, in the late model division, and and whatever they call those different classes back in those days. So that's where it got to start. But I have most of the memories of him anyway, being up north racing the big block modifieds.
Now, would you travel with him when he went up there, or would he just go? Because y'all were living in Florida, South Florida at the time, wasn't you?
Yeah, we would. Yeah, exactly. We would come live in the Leeds Zephyr Hills, Florida, and actually we would go up, and I would accompany my dad, and he would race probably till right around. Matter of fact, I think in a couple of weeks we would come. Normally we would be coming back home. So right about the end of October, roughly, uh, when it started getting real cold up there, that's when Dad would come back to Florida, and he would sell his stuff. He generally had two cars. He would sell those cars to some people up there. He would come back and use that money to build new stuff, and then go back again the next year. So that,
Man, that's
and again, I just followed him where I was just a kid. So whenever he got ready to go, I just went. So
that is awesome. But man, doing it that way and building 2 new cars a year and selling them up there, that's how you stay in brand new equipment. I mean, he must have been wearing them out up there pretty good.
I mean, it was okay. I mean, I think back at those times, you could obviously build your own stuff. I think most guys built their own stuff. There was no store bought type of race cars at that point. Uh, and my dad always told me, he goes, you may, the motor and everything, you may have had $10,000-$12,000 in your car at that time.
Right.
Which obviously is a whole lot different than it is now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and so and then my dad could race again up north in Pennsylvania. He could run Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and each of those races, whether it be a special event or some just regular local shows, they would races would pay $800 to $1,000 to win. So it didn't take you long at all to be able to recoup that cost of building your cars and kind of make a living at it as well. So
yeah, and I mean for that kind of money back then, that was good money.
Yeah, it was for sure. I mean, that's the strange thing about racing is the fact that the cost of maintaining a race car's definitely gone up, but the purse structure has not gone up with it. So
yeah, the purse structure's kind of stayed the same. We're still having 1,000 win races, and it's supposed to be a big deal when it costs you $1,000 to get there.
Exactly. So.
Well, that is too. That's good stuff. Well, tell me, as you were growing up and becoming a teenager and stuff, and going to high school, when did you actually get the bug and wanted to start driving yourself?
Well, at that time, of course, I mean, I raced go-karts and things of that nature around there because, I mean, at that time, you had to be, I think it was a minimum of 13 years old, before they would let you get on the racetrack. So you had to be a certain age. And even then, your parents had to sign a release for you and things of that nature, releasing the tracks from liability and things of that nature. So I just started racing a mini stock at the Florida State Fairgrounds when there was still a racetrack there, at East Bay Raceway, which obviously just closed down.
Yeah, I hated to see that racetrack leave, man. That was an awesome place.
Yeah, I was too. I was that place was always near and dear to me for sure. But so I mean, we just started racing. I just started racing mini stocks and things of that nature, and kind of went up the ladder as as it were, racing limited late models and modifieds and just whatever, heck, I can remember being back at East Bay, and sometimes I would race 3 classes a night, and you could kind of make a living. I say a living, I was still living at home, so it wasn't like I was, making a living. But for a kid that was in high school,
making enough, just making enough to have the pocket change, yeah,
exactly, yeah. So to me, that was a whole lot of money back at that time. So.
Now, were you strictly just racing dirt then, or had you started dabbling with some asphalt stuff, or?
Yeah, I would just race whatever paid. So, I mean, sometimes it was Friday night on dirt, and sometimes it was Saturday on pavement. So, I mean, or in a reverse order. So, I mean, who knows? I just I just started driving whatever paid, the best, and what drivers, what owners wanted me to drive. So, I mean, whether it was dirt or pavement, it really didn't matter to me. I just was happy to be behind the wheel or something.
Well, that's that drive that you got to have to make it. And obviously, you made it, and you made a career out of it. Winter is over. Racing season is in full bloom, and hurricane season is only weeks away. Don't wait till Jim Cantori shows up on Pensacola Beach to make sure that your house is hurricane ready. You need to give Window World of Pensacola a call. We specialize in impact and non-impact rated windows, but our impact line is what you need for the upcoming hurricane season. Give us a call today at 850-484-9998 or come by the office at 10108 North Palafox Street. So let's talk about your early days when, because you run All Pro, and you made quite a name for yourself in the All Pro and the ASA series and stuff like that. Tell me about that and who you were driving for and how that kind of took shape.
I think, well, to start off, I don't think we probably won as much as we should have, just going off of just because we were still trying to do our own stuff and, just kind of trying to reinvent the wheel. And really, I mean, we should have just, looking back, we should have just kind of done more what most other people around were doing. I think and relied on the overall fine tuning aspect of the cars and things of that nature. And probably would have run a whole lot better early on than we did. But yeah, I mean, I started driving for like a guy named Jim Brinkley Jr. I started driving for him. He had an all pro car, and we moved on to drive for Mike Wakely, who was a business guy out of Savannah, Georgia, who had a couple of Jiffy Lubes up there. And I mean, the cars always, like my dad's stuff, and I kind of followed his footsteps. So my stuff always was relatively clean,
Right.
well kept. Didn't look like it was falling apart, even though probably it was a lot of times, but it didn't look like that.
Right.
And so I mean, overall, I mean, I think we did okay. At the end of it, we started winning some, and when we kind of found our niche and things of that nature. But it's like anything else. It's like it was a struggle for sure. I mean, you're coming home at 3 a.m. or whatever, and driving a slow moving hauler and thinking to yourself, I mean, well, this all racing has to offer, right? I mean,
Right.
You get tired and pull over in the rest area and get a couple hours of sleep. But I mean, that was part of paying your dues. And it's really not a whole lot different. Yeah, it's really not a whole lot different than people are doing now. It's just it was just part of it, right? So
now back in those All Pro days, were you like touring around the country with that series and like going to Winchester and Five Flags and going to these racetracks and stuff? And did you come and run the Snowball Derby when you were doing that?
No, the Snowball Derby was not part of the overall
All Pro stuff.
All Pro stuff at that time. It may have been at one time, but All Pro stuff was just. I mean, again, this was long before NASCAR got a hold of it. So it was, I think it was when I was racing, it was called the Slim Jim All Pro Series. And we raced places like, we ran tracks like Lakeland Speedway down in Florida. We
That
also
place was
ran,
awesome.
yeah, it was for sure. And we ran, places like Greenville Pickens, Salem, Winchester. I-70 Speedway out in Missouri. All kinds of different places. Generally in the probably in the southeast and northeast rather. That's probably most of the places we ran. And we did follow that touring series because at that time it was only like one or two races a month. So you could kind of, and always involve some kind of travel.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. So, it wasn't that bad. It gave you a chance to kind of keep up with your stuff and then that nature.
Yeah. At least you wasn't on the road every weekend.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. I was young and I wanted to be on the road every weekend, but now I've gotten older. Just leaving the house is a chore. So, yeah.
Well, I think we all understand that.
Yes.
So hit some of the highlights. What were some of the races that you won during that era of your career? And what was the biggest highlights that you had?
Geez, I don't really know. One of my earliest wins was at South Boston Speedway in Virginia. That was a good race. We at the time the All Pro Series ran Bristol, and we led a lot of Bristol, the race at Bristol, although we had a rear end failure at the end, so it kind of took us out of it. But at that point, it's like, it was kind of a big deal racing at Bristol, especially in an all pro car, right? And I think we won some other events. I think we won at Greenville Pickens, and that place, to look at it wasn't that tough at all. But the race on it was way harder than it looked for sure.
Well,
But so we got a chance to go, again, just fall stuff. And we had a limited amount of success. We won 3 or 4 races, whatever, in our pro series. But again, we should have won a whole lot more.
right. Well, you obviously won enough and did well enough in that series to get the call, to move up to the next level. And take me through that transition. And, it's every kid's dream that loves racing is to get the call one day to go to that next level. How did that happen for you? How did that whole transition come about?
Well, it's kind of a long, drawn out story, but really, the kid who actually was working on my dirt car at the time, a kid named Brian Patty, he, obviously he was very, very sharp and very good at what he did. And so I went up north, again, trying to be just like my dad. I went up north at the time when I graduated high school to race big block modifieds because I thought I wanted to race, that type of modified. And Brian Patty went to Mooresville, North Carolina to be a crew chief. So he got tied in with Joe Nemechek, another guy from Florida.
Right.
And, started doing the crew chief stuff over there. And I think, I came back to Florida after my stint, a couple of years racing big block cars or trying to race big block cars, and I was completely lost. So, those cars were at that time were torsion bar rears and pull over fronts, and I came from a late model background, and I really didn't know what I was doing. I think we won 1 or 2 races, maybe at the most up there. So I came back to Florida trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I went, started helping out Brian at some tests, whatever. Just tagging along. Just I didn't really have any direction. I was just doing whatever needed to be done, and then at the end, I think due to Brian being involved, and Brian probably wore Joe Nemechek out to the point where it was like, well, give David a chance, let him test stuff. So that's kind of where I got my start, just testing a little bit of stuff for Nemechek. And then, because at that time, Nemechek stuff, even though Nemechek was cup racing, Nemechek's Bush stuff at the time, which was what the series was called, was very, very good stuff.
Right.
And, so, that's kind of how I got our start, just testing stuff for him. And then I remember one night, Joe was, out there bush racing, and he had came up a rainstorm and Joe had to leave. And so he goes, well, you're going to have to drive this car because I gotta go to cup racing. So I was like, well, I don't know about this, but okay. So
That's a hell of a way to do it.
I made a bush start there, and then we qualified, a bush car. I was just qualifying a car because Greg Biffle was going to come in and race that car. He was at, I think, Atlanta, and I was at Memphis. So I was just contracted to qualify a car, and then Biffle was going to come in and race it, and that's kind of what was always the understanding to me. So I went out there, and we sat on the pole, and so I got more PR out of being on the pole and not racing that race than I ever would have gotten racing that event. And so, I mean, then people started. That was at a different time, right? But you didn't really have to write a big check. You had to just have some ability, and people were at that time were still looking for that ability. So we went out there and ran okay. And again, I was driving Joe stuff, and it's like I stated before. So if I didn't run good in Joe stuff, I wasn't going to run good at all.
Right.
I mean, it was very, very good stuff. It was kind of like the Gibbs,
kind of like a break it or make it or break it moment.
Yeah, it was for sure. So we went out there and we did okay. And then I basically just got I was just sitting at the house. We were again nothing solid though. We were just hit and miss stuff, and I was kind of in limbo, I guess, really. And then I got a call at home from Darrell Waltrip, who was basically just asked me to drive his truck stuff. He's forming a new truck team with Toyota, and he just. I went from a guy who was wearing had a piece of tape over a Hoosier decal or a patch on my uniform because I couldn't afford a uniform. But I was obviously on a Goodyear deal, or a tire deal. So they put a piece of duct tape over my uniform, and I went to Richmond, and we ran a couple races there, and so I went from a guy who had nothing in a going for me really to being what I thought was the biggest deal ever, which was drive for a truck for Darrell Waltrip. So, yeah.
I mean, that must have been incredible. I mean, you're one of the few drivers that has had a NASCAR career that has won through all three of the top series, the trucks, the Xfinity series, and the Cup series. I mean, that's quite an accomplishment in itself, just to be able to say that I've won in all the top levels of racing.
Yeah, I mean, but again, at the same time, I didn't realize it then, like I do now. But they were not real good teams that are all kind of upstart teams, like the truck team. I mean, obviously, I went down there to sign the contract, and there was not a truck or anything like that in the shop. I had a guy named Bobby Kennedy, who was the team principal. He was having to go out and get everything. It wasn't a hauler. There wasn't any crew guys. There wasn't nothing at all. And we were probably less than 2 months away from Daytona.
Holy cow.
So we had nothing. And obviously, matter of fact, we went down there and tested, and made the test at Daytona, with a test motor and stuff like that. And that was my first taste of being in a truck series. But I just knew in the back of my head, I mean, it was still probably the best stuff I'd ever driven for sure. So I didn't know no different.
Do you own a small business? Do you know how much profit you made last month? Do you know what your biggest expense was last month? Do you even know that you need to know these things? Well, you need to call Blackwater Bookkeeping if you didn't answer yes to any of those questions. Steph at Blackwater Bookkeeping can help you figure out where your money's going and where it's coming from, and help you strategize your business in the best way based on the numbers. Numbers don't lie.
She can also get you ready for next year's tax season and be ahead of the game instead of behind the 8 ball. Give her a call today at 850-290-3043.
And remember, whether it's startups or cleanups, Steph can get it done.
David, that brings me to another question, a childhood question. What is it like to pull out on the Daytona International Speedway and go around that place at almost 200 miles an hour? Is it as intimidating as it would seem to be, or is it just fun?
Well, I mean, you really don't think about it that much. I mean, but again, I'm in a truck. I pull out on the pit road at the Daytona, and I have never made a lap in anything at all. I haven't even been on a tour of Daytona National Speedway. So I had no idea what I was in for.
That's awesome.
And so, and then you've seen enough preseason testing at Daytona to know that, you wait in line and, they make, mock runs for qualifying runs, right? So, so you have to go out there in a truck. So, once you leave pit road, it's like any other racetrack. Really, I mean, with a lot of banking per se, but I mean, I was surprised, I think, probably at how narrow that racetrack was, because I was like, man, this place is awful narrow to be going as fast as we are. So, I mean, that's, again, that was it. That was my introduction to Daytona. It was like, pull on pit road. Okay, it's your turn. Go, get after it.
And
so
you just got to go.
I went through the gears. Yeah, went through the gears, and that was that was how you learned, I guess, at that time anyway. So,
well, I guess the trial by fire really is just, you just got to do it.
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, I think that's probably, you have to find out most of that stuff for yourself. I mean, matter of fact, my first race at Daytona, and towards the end, I just, I was running like fifth or whatever. I mean, we had a real good truck and everything was going good. And with like 2 to go, I just pulled it out like I was going to, I was by myself, just like I was going to pass everybody. Well, nothing, that didn't work.
Right.
You can't pass anybody by yourself, much less in a truck. So, I mean, I ended up being okay at the end, but I mean, that's because I didn't give the guys behind me much of a choice. They were coming up on me and they had to push me or get wrecked. So that's kind of, what it came down to. So, yeah, I mean, I learned a lot that day. And heck, I mean, that's part of the racing, though. You learn every time you go out there, I'm sure.
Right. Well, to circle back on something you just said. So you were saying that you were on a Goodyear tire deal. What kind of deal does Goodyear give drivers, and how does that work? How does because I've heard several people on the Dale Jr. Download talk about being on this tire deal or that tire deal. How do those deals work? What do they do for you?
Well, I mean, I think probably, to say we were on a deal, it probably was not, I probably misspoke there. I mean, we weren't on any kind of price break or anything like that. So, I mean, but again, you don't, at that time, it was, and the whole time I've been in cup racing was strictly a Goodyear type of tire.
Right.
Right. In the early days, you obviously had Hoosier coming in and there was a big tire war. Well, that's not the case anymore. So, I mean, it was one of the situations where, if you had a Hoosier patch on your uniform, well, you better take it up because, I mean, you don't want to get on Goodyear's bad side.
Right.
And kind of rock the boat. So, I mean, again, it was nothing. Your tire bill for a year in cup race, or for a race rather in cup racing, it was nothing to see tire bill go upwards of $30,000 for one race.
Holy cow!
Yeah, so I mean, it was like, I got a chance to see a couple bills from Goodyear, and that's probably what they were. $25,000-$30,000 per race per car, right? So obviously, so yeah, it was quite. Cup racing in itself is quite expensive for sure. So
100%. So on the when you're coming up and you're transitioning from your all pro stuff and you're you're driving for Joe Nemechek, how did the licensing or the licensing stuff work? I mean, did you have to go run so many short tracks before you could get an intermediate license and then go run some intermediate stuff? And then how did all of that come to be, or was that a different era then?
I think it may have been a little bit different. And I mean, obviously, NASCAR is kind of looking at you to make sure you're not some kind of, hack or whatever, I guess. Really,
right, yeah. Ain't gonna go out there and just tear the field up. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, so they watch you. And I mean, I think like we went to, I think when I was, it wasn't, you had to kind of submit a resume to what you had done to get in the truck series, right? And once you got in the truck series and they realized you were okay and you weren't going to go out there and do anything stupid for the most part anyway, then you could kind of transition up into the Busch Grand National level at that time, which is now I think the Xfinity Series. But Cup racing is kind of separate from all those other two series, and so like I would say, okay, well, I'm gonna go Cup racing, go or race a couple Cup races for this team. I think it was matter of fact that my first venture in the Cup racing was with the Morgan McClure team, which was on the downhill slide for sure, but with the Kodak car, right?
Yeah.
And so, but that's what I said was, well, because that's fine, but you need to at least race one Cup race or not Cup race. You need to race one ARCA race to kind of, let us look at them again. So we went to Pocono with the Kodak car, and we ran the ARCA event. And it was myself. As a matter of fact, we ran second that race, and Casey Mears won, and he was driving the 42 car. So yeah, basically two Cup cars, run first and second that race. And then at that point, they said, "Well, okay, then now you can go ahead and go Cup racing."
I got you. Well, I guess that's a good thing that they do that. That stops, and I don't know if it's still that way today. I mean, we see these kids coming along today, and they just seem to get younger and younger and younger, and getting Cup rides and Xfinity rides and truck rides. But at least they got to do something to make sure that when they get in a crowd, they're not going to tear up millions of dollars worth of equipment.
Yeah, for sure. And again, like you said, I'm not really sure how it works now, but that's the way it worked.
Well, man, you had a pretty successful truck career. I mean, you had one win, 38 top tens, and 6 poles. How did you make that transition from the truck back to the Xfinity series?
Really, I mean, the most fun I ever had, I think, was probably in the Xfinity series for sure. The trucks were okay, but I mean, they kind of behave kind of differently especially on super speedway stuff, even on the intermediate stuff for sure. It was kind of like if somebody was on the outside of you would just get kind of sucked around. The air would do all kinds of weird things, and there wasn't really much you could do about it behind the wheel. I mean, if you get pulled around and spun out, well, that's just part of it.
Right.
But the Xfinity series, I think those cars were probably the most fun to drive. And the Cup stuff, you're under so much pressure to, perform and do good. So I think the Xfinity series is kind of somewhere in between for me anyway. It was so. Yeah.
Well, you had a very successful Xfinity series. You had one win, 45 top tens, and 3 poles, and one at Memphis in 2007. Is that when you're coming up and just for our listeners and stuff, when you're trying to make a name for yourself as a professional athlete, and you're driving for legends like Dale Waltrip, and eventually you would get the call from Michael Waltrip Racing and go with him and basically start a team. And have some success there as well. But what is that like? I mean, we hear these drivers on these different podcasts and stuff talking about how they wish that they would have had more fun in the moment. How do you do that? Or, like for the people listening, how do you explain to them that, life is so fast paced that you don't really get the time to enjoy it the way and relish in it? You know what I mean? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah. I mean, again, it's kind of the racing mentality, I guess, really. You're so busy doing stuff, whether it be a public appearance or an autograph session or whatever. The overall racing kind of becomes secondary, really. And I mean that like,
it's almost like you're being pulled in 100 different directions.
Yeah. I mean, no sponsors are going to give you, at that time, I think the top teams were getting like $20 million, $22 million a year, right? So no sponsors are going to give you that kind of, money.
They expect it,
without, expecting something in return,
right?
And that involves, you being on the travel accommodations and things of that nature. They treat you like you're somebody special for sure. But so you're on a private plane and, stay at the best motels and things of that nature, which is awesome because you actually feel like you're really, really important, but you're really probably not. But at the same time, So you do all this other stuff, and then you just show up at a racetrack on at that time on Thursday was a travel day, and then you're there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then so you have to do that stuff all the time, week in, week out. So you really don't have time to really assess what's going on and what's happening to your cars, because there's a good chance you're not going to see your team like when they leave. Chances are you're going to go off be doing stuff, and they're going to be getting the car ready for the next race. And so next time you run into them, be the next race at the racetrack. And it's kind of weird.
That's got to be hard, man. That's like that's almost like kind of being in a circus. You know what I mean? Being on a traveling deal. You know what I'm saying? It's just
yeah. I mean, it is for sure. I mean, but again, I mean, at that point, the sponsors, and I say this in the best way possible, but they kind of own you for the most part.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have to do what they say, and you have to do what the contract stipulates. And again, I mean, as you climb the ladder and become more important, I think there's less demands on your time. With just starting out, you have to do anything and everything they ask, because that's just the way it works.
Right.
So, I mean,
right.
like guys like Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, whatever. I think their schedule was a little less hectic because they were kind of at top of the heap, so to speak. So they kind of say yes and no, where I was in the position where I didn't feel like I could say no.
Well, and I mean, that's certainly understandable. And especially in the era that you were doing it, I mean, that was kind of like the golden era of NASCAR. I mean, it was at its height of its popularity. And I mean, everybody, I mean, you couldn't even get tickets to go to Bristol and stuff back then. You know what I mean? It was sold out shows. And you did, like I said, you did really well against, everybody that you raced against. But what was it like racing? Because obviously growing up racing and stuff like that, you had your own heroes, you had your own people that you looked up to that was, in the higher up sports. What was it like to finally get to compete with those people and be on the same level, on the same playing field per se, and go head to head with them?
Yeah, I mean, the people that you grew up kind of looking up to, whatever, you realize that they're probably just regular people, for one.
Right.
And number two, I mean, like if you're in the garage, you kind of understand what people are up against, right? Like, I had a teammate, Darrell. Well, I always, Darrell was one of my heroes,
right?
Back at that time, and you realize it's like those guys are only as good as what they're driving.
Yeah.
So if they get in a bad situation and the car's not really, really good, well, they're probably not going to go that good,
right?
Because I mean, because I think people, race fans or whatever, that watch from the grandstands, I don't think they realize how much how important the car is, as opposed to like when you're racing at a local level, whatever. I mean, you can kind of make up for stuff by driving stuff harder, taking chances, do those things like that. But at the cup level, if your stuff's way off, you're just not going to go very fast.
Right. You're just stuck in left field.
Yeah. And people, I don't think, realize how important, and, as you climb the ladder, the car becomes more and more important than what you were driving before. And I think people just think, race fans just think you suck. You're not that good. And that's not really what it comes down to. Any of those guys that race, for the most part, could win if their car, if they were in a good situation. So
right, you just got to have the good equipment. You just got to, and I guess that's the difference in the top tier teams, especially in the Cup Series and stuff. Because I mean, we're seeing it today. I mean, we're watching one of the greatest race car drivers, in my personal opinion. Even though I'm not a big fan of his, I have to give credit to him. Kyle Busch, and we're watching him struggle with this new car. We're watching him really struggle with Richard Childress Racing, that had had Dale Earnhardt driving for him. You know what I mean? It was a great team, but they're still struggling to get one of the best in NASCAR right now, just to to be there and be competitive every week. So, I mean, I think that's a testament to what you're saying. I mean, you've got to have the equipment in order to compete at the top level.
Well, yeah, I mean, you just don't wake up one morning and forget how to do a job, right? I mean, that's not how it works. You just don't forget how to drive. So, I mean, again, to your point, a guy like Kyle Busch, who's obviously very, very talented, very good. Well, I mean, when he gets in a bad situation, I mean, and again, I'm not saying children's stuff is junk or bad,
right,
but it's certainly not at the level right now as the Gibbs stuff was,
right.
So again, I mean, so again, he can't really make up for that shortcoming of the teams at that point. So,
hey, race fans. Are you a small business looking to connect with passionate locals across our area? Then this is your chance. At the Short Track Shakedown, we're all about the legends of local racing. Every week, we bring on drivers, track owners, and fans who have helped shape our rich racing history. And guess what? Our listeners aren't just fans. They're loyal locals who love supporting businesses that support their passion. When you advertise with us, you're not just buying an ad. You're fueling a homegrown show built by and for the racing community. Your support helps us grow the podcast and keep bringing fans the stories they love. So if you want to reach a tight-knit, racing-loving community that lives right here in your backyard, let's talk. Email us today at theshorttrackshakedown@gmail.com and get your business in front of folks who live for the weekend at the racetrack.
So when you were cup racing and everything, were you strictly just driving the cup car, or were you still doing some local stuff? Were you still trying to drive your modified here and there and go into like one-off shows or go into some of these asphalt races around? Like we see a lot of drivers doing that now, especially like the Kyle Larsons and the Chase Elliott's and stuff. They still drive their local stuff whenever they can. Were you doing the same thing, or were you focusing on your cup career?
No, I was just still trying to do, I was sort of trying to drive anything I could. So again, if I was able to drive my own stuff or drive for other people, I would go do that. I mean, just because it was fun.
Oh yeah,
and I always like to drive. So yeah, I mean, not at the level of like a Kyle Larson or whatever does. But I mean, at the same time, I mean, I was, I just like to drive. I like to get in stuff, good equipment for sure, and go out there and, see what happens. And, so I don't really, never really stopped, doing it. I don't think there's as much time for sure. Now, maybe there's more time now, but at that time, you were kind of committed to what you would do. And, so anytime there was a off weekend, I mean, maybe you would go and just try your hand at, racing local dirt track stuff, whatever. So.
Well, I mean, you've had we'll get into your dirt career, in just a second, but I mean, you've always had a very successful dirt modified career and stuff. But I would be, remiss without covering your actual Cup Series career. Tell me, when you transition from the Xfinity Series and you finally get the call to go to drive for Michael Waltrip Racing, and how does that work? You know what I mean? Is that just and I guess what my question is from the behind the scenes, how do rumors get started, or hey, they may be interested in you, you need to go talk to this person or that person, you know what I mean? How do you transition and make that deal come together?
Well, I mean, like when I was started driving for Michael on the Cup level, well, I mean, Michael was obviously always involved with the Truck Series team and stuff like that. So, I mean, he and Daryl obviously being brothers and things of that nature.
They kind of just watch you progress, or
watch progress. And I was just racing the Busch stuff or the Xfinity stuff, and just testing the overall Cup stuff. But I wasn't really the Cup driver,
right?
And so they were interviewing other people to take over that, what at that time was the 00 car,
and Aaron's dream machine.
But that time it was just the Aaron's was sponsoring the 99 car, the Xfinity level, and they weren't involved in the Cup stuff. So they had like Burger King and Domino's and were the sponsors primarily on the Cup stuff. Well, so I was just trying to drive stuff, testing stuff, which again I was happy with doing because they were not settled on a overall driver for that team yet. And the crew chief at the time, a guy named Frankie Kerr, he just said, "Hey, because you guys are doing, going out and interviewing this guy and that guy and giving them tests and things of that nature. Because maybe you need to look at, who's doing the driving now. Just take a look at Reutimann." So they started looking at me, in my opinion. Nobody told me this, but in my opinion, in a different light. Like they said, well, here's a guy. Number one, he's cheap. He's not going to ask a whole lot of money, and he's he does a decent job behind the wheel. So let's give him a shot. And I think that's probably what came about. Really, I mean, again, nobody has told me that, but knowing how things work behind the scenes and things of that nature, that's probably what happened.
Well, that's and I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for the for somebody giving you the opportunity and having the faith in you to get to where you wanted to be. I mean, that's everybody's dream, is somebody's got to have faith in somebody in order to get to where you want to go. And you had some success. You won Chicagoland, you won the Coca-Cola 600. I mean, when you finally win a NASCAR race like that, I mean, what is the emotion that goes on inside? I mean, is it elation? Is it, what do you feel when you win something of that magnitude?
Well, I mean, like when we won the Coke 600, I mean, that was obviously a range shortened event, and I really didn't feel like I ever won that race. I just kind of everything worked out for a reason. Not sure what the reason was, but everything worked out, and we ended up winning the race. And people were genuinely upset because I at that point I hadn't led a whole lot of the race, or I don't even think I led a lap because it was not even past halfway. I think we were running like 10th, whatever, and everybody else came down pit road, and we stayed out, and we ended up winning the race. But I don't make the overall rules package,
Right.
And I'm certainly not the first person that's ever won a range shortened event.
Oh, of course not.
But at the same time, I mean, I definitely can understand how people would get upset. I think probably in our race win at Chicago was probably the kind of the icing on the cake, really, because I mean we ended up racing for the win. We had the best car, and everything worked out for us. So I mean, it was nice to win races for sure, but at the same time, I mean, you win on Sunday. And then you do media and stuff like that on Monday, and then Tuesday you do more media and some, and some more interviews and talking with sponsors and things of that nature. By Wednesday, it's kind of forgotten about, and you have to go out and do the same thing again. Try to do the same. So
it's very short-lived. It sounds like.
Yeah, it's very short-lived, but I think it's probably any professional, athlete, whether it be football player or baseball player or whatever. Again, we always have a saying in the business, and you've heard it before. You're only as good as your last race,
right?
And that's what it comes down to.
Well, and I think any driver on any level feels that. I mean, you can win this week, and you want to go back and win again next week, and if you don't, I mean, anything other than a win at that point sucks. You know what I mean? Sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's, and people. And again, people forget awful quickly anyway, how, if you didn't win a race, well, I mean, you better go do it again, because if not, you basically suck again.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, like I said, like I said earlier, you are one of the few drivers that can say they've won in all three of the top series, and you had a very successful career. I mean, if anybody's standards, just to make it there and be in the show, I can't see anybody ever saying that would be, anything other than just a spectacular career. But what was kind of, at the end of your career with Michael Waltrip Racing? I know there was a lot of controversy around that team at times. And I've listened to a lot of the Michael Waltrip interviews on that, and it really hurt him, deeply when he had to close his team. And with you being there and going through all that with him, what was that like? What was the atmosphere around that team like during those tough moments?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak on, what went on after I left, but I mean, beforehand, I mean, some of the people that were on my cup team were with me with my, during the truck days and, stuff like that. So, I mean, the team I had, was um, probably I say probably, they were some really, really good guys. And that's what probably upset me the most is the fact that, when NWR did close the doors finally, those guys were kind of left scrambling, and that's the people that I really cared about. As far as Michael, those guys are going to be okay, right? I mean,
Right.
they're going to be fine. But the guys who turn the wrenches and build the bodies and all the stuff like that, they were kind of left scrambling, and I hate that for them because I mean they were, you know, as a whole, across all the three teams that we had under that roof, there were some really, really good guys that just kind of lost their livelihood, in a short amount of time for sure.
Right.
So I mean, but again, I mean, I at my advanced stage for sure because I was far from. I think I was a rookie when I was 38 years old or whatever. I was a rookie in the Cup Series. So, I'm not, it's not lost on me the fact that people my age, that stuff doesn't really happen very often to people in my age. So to get the opportunity to go Cup racing was probably more than I probably ever wished for. If I had a prime, I was past my prime when I got to go Cup racing. I was just older guy, and so especially now, if you look at in the garage, I mean, most of the guys are way younger, than I was, and even then, I was probably the oldest guy. I was certainly was one of the older rookies for sure in
Right.
that series. So I mean, so again, I mean, things didn't work out for me at the end, but I choose not to lose sight of the fact that the fact that I got a chance to do it at all was pretty special.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's a lot of people that race for years and years and years and get close, but just never get the right opportunity or get in front of the right person. And, that's what worries me, honestly, David, about today's racing is it's so money driven that the guy that may be the next Dale Earnhardt, may be the next David Reutimann or Jeff Gordon or Tony Stewart or whatever, may never get the opportunity because they don't have the money, you know what I mean? And just they have the talent, they have the drive, the will to do it, and just don't have the money. And that's what bothers me about the sport anymore is of how money driven it is.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, at this point, it's always been the financial side of racing has always been there, right? But at the same time, it's more predominant now than it used to be. I mean, if you had a sponsor, well, that was helpful, but there's no guarantee you would be behind the wheel.
Right.
Well, now if you have a sponsor or can write a big check, it doesn't really matter what your ability is.
Right. If you got enough money, you got a Cup ride, or you got an Xfinity.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's not the way it used to be.
Right.
Again, I sound like an old guy saying, "Well, it used to be this and it used to be that," but the reality was, or at one time anyway, was if you didn't have the ability, you were not going to stick around very long. So.
Right, because you got to win races. You know what I mean? And race cars were built different back then. Too. Even when I've been doing this a long time, but even coming up from even on the local level. The race cars built 20 years ago are not the same caliper that they're built today, even on the modified level or any level. And it's just, if you got to have some real talent to go out there and win these races. And, we see so many people that have the talent that are wearing local short tracks out on a regular basis, winning everything there is to win. and just never going to get there. You know what I mean? Just never see their dream fulfilled, even though they've got the talent to do it.
Bubba Pollard.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and Bubba and he really is. I mean, he can wear out a short track, you know, and I hate that. I mean, he's had moments of success, and Dale Jr.'s helped him, you know, in a few things, and the guys at Ream have helped him. But, you know, I hate that, you know, he's my age, he's 38 years old, 39, and he'll never get to be what it could have been, you know, if he'd have got in front of the right people.
Yeah. I mean, like to your point, I mean, guys like him, you know, I mean, there's anybody in any person, there's probably at least 5 people that you can name in any given racetrack that are at least as good as the guys in the Cup Series now.
Right.
Again, they're just not in the right place at the right time, or they can't ride a big tech, and are not in any financial situation to just be able to say, you know, okay, you know, I'm your driver now. Because
right.
I mean, but again, if you look like, you know, if you looking back now, I mean, you know, it's again, money's always been a big deal. Cup racing for sure, but again, I think now you can ride your own ticket pretty much. So,
right.
Are you looking to transform your property? Do you need a pool removed, land cleared, or expert grading for your next big project? Look no further than More Site Solutions. One thing that makes More Site Solutions different than other companies, when you call, you're not just getting a business, you're getting Jake. That's right, the owner. Jake personally answers your phone call, shows up for every estimate, and never leaves you hanging. No ghosting, no excuses, just honest, reliable service from start to finish. And if you're the DIY type, they have you covered too. More Site Solutions can supply the materials you need to get the job done right. So whether it's a big project or a small one, More Site Solutions is ready to make it happen. Give Jake a call today at 850-332-2827, and let's get to work.
Well, David, you know, going through, you know, transitioning out of the Cup Series, you know, and I think you had some stuff going on, you know, with your dirt modified stuff before you actually got out of the Cup Series. But tell me about retiring and what you've been doing since you've been retired, and tell me about Beat Built. You know, we see some of these beautiful cars that you put out on Facebook, and you know, I know you're doing a kind of a rent-a-ride deal now, but tell me about the Beat Built stuff.
yeah, I mean, you know, going in, I mean, you know, that you can't be a Cup driver forever.
Right.
I mean, you know, again, it's a young man's game. So, I mean, you know, even if you had the money, you know, maybe your desire to do it is not there. So, I mean, you know, you have to step back at some point. And so I always, being broke from the beginning, I always ended up building my own stuff. So, so that's kind of, you know, I was, you know, again, I was always a better fabricator than I ever was a driver for sure. And now did you get to go in the fab shop at like MWR or whatever, and, you know, view, you know, the jigs and things of that nature and how stuff is built. Well, you kind of incorporate that into the overall build process that you have on the dirt modified stuff. And so, I mean, so it took us a couple of years to kind of, you know, streamline and get it built. But I mean, I think our jigs and things of that nature are probably as good as anybody's as far as, I mean, there is certainly as good as any Cup level design car is. And again, because I mean, you look at other manufacturers that build stuff and on jigs, and you're like, man, that stuff's crude, you
Right.
know. But in reality, it's probably not. You just, you know, it just comes to the way you view stuff. And again, so we build a certain amount of dirt modifieds a year. I think the most cars we've ever built in 1 year has probably been at close to 20. But most of the time it's between 10 and 11 cars. And that's really about 9 more than I want to build anyway, really. I mean, it's just you want to be able to cater to you know, the overall clientele that you have, and our stuff is obviously a little bit more expensive, not a lot more, but a little bit more than some of our competitors out there.
Well, and it's probably got more technology in it too, though.
Well, it does for sure. I mean, well, at least I think it does.
Right.
You know, again, I'm not really an expert on anybody else's stuff, but I mean, my sole focus, on stuff is just the modified stuff, right? And so, where everybody else or some other companies are thinking about going late model racing and this, that, and the other. I have no desire to do any of that stuff. Number one, I'm not that smart because I build race cars for a living, so that should tell you I'm not that smart. And number two, I mean, having having a late model in with a modified is not, it's not, it won't bear any kind of fruit. So I mean, and I think when you build race cars, you can either say real small and cater to certain guys, or get real big and kind of mass produce stuff.
Right.
But I don't. If you're in between, I don't think there's possible for you to make any kind of money or any kind of living with that nature. So so we build cars, modify stuff. And again, guys, despite the wall being kind of immobile, people still try to knock it down. So we still sell a bunch of A-frames and spindles and bumpers and ride side roll bars and things of that nature, and do a lot of fixing cars and clipping cars and things of that nature, as well as building new stuff. And I mean, we're just out here in Sherwood Ford. I have a little shop and 2 jigs, and we stay fairly busy. So I mean,
So
it's not.
Are you still doing the? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. And so to your question about the rental stuff, I still. Matter of fact, that's kind of the way I scratch my itch, so to speak. Is with new guys. Some guys just don't really have the overall time to devote to building a race car or maintaining a race car. And that's fine, because that's kind of what we are geared toward doing. Is we just basically, whether it be a UMB car or a 602 car, which is kind of popular up in this area.
Right.
Good guys just show up, race a car, and really go home, and we take care of the rest. We do all the washing and cleaning.
Man, they don't even have to wash them.
No, they don't have to do nothing. They just have to show up, drive, and go home. Because
man, that's a deal right there.
People just don't have the time to devote to what it takes,
right?
And so I mean, so that's what we kind of gear ourselves towards.
I got you. Are you still doing the main fabrication yourself, or do you got a team of guys and you just running the business, or how is that working?
Well, I started doing all the fabricating and things of that nature, and I had one other guy helping me. But again, dealing with all the medical stuff that I've dealt with, that I don't really do any kind of manufacturing of the chassis stuff anymore. I let somebody else take care of that stuff, because I don't feel in my heart that I can do a good enough job, and people are paying for that, and so it's like, you better off to just turn it over and let somebody else do the overall fabrication stuff. Right. And I just feel I build stuff. I always joke, I build stuff that doesn't have to look that good, that perfect. So I mean, I build bumpers and A-frames and spindles and things of that nature, which doesn't really, in dirt racing, it doesn't have really a long life expectancy. So that's kind of what I do. So
we knock that stuff off pretty regular.
I was surprised how many people. Monday's my biggest fan shipping stuff out, because I mean that's when people realize that they're, they knock stuff off and give us a call. And Monday and Tuesday we ship stuff out. So
right. Well, that kind of brings me to my final thing. I know you have had some medical stuff going on. Are you still doing a little racing yourself, or have you pretty much turned that loose? Or tell me about what's been going on with you personally.
Well, I mean, I didn't feel like, as a driver, and you know what I'm talking about. As a driver, when you're not performing as good as you should, or doing a job that you're capable of doing, but something's holding you back. I mean, your ego, because we all have it, it takes over a little bit, and you're like, well, I'm not as good, so maybe, from the hard hits and things of that nature, you need a reason as to why you're not as good at behind the wheel as you once were.
Yeah, you got to figure out what the justification is.
Yeah, what the cause is. So,
right.
So I mean, I went in there and I talked to the doctor, and he said, he sent me for a scan, and doctors being doctors nowadays, you have to talk to this specialist and that specialist and this and that.
Got to jump through all the hoops.
Yeah. So a couple weeks later, I met with a specialist there, and I went and sat down, and my X-ray was on the computer because that's the way they do things now, I guess. And he wasn't in the office yet, but I was looking at my X-ray, and I have no idea what I'm looking at, but I could tell right away that that mass in the middle of my brain that was not the same color as the rest of my brain was not normal.
Right.
And so the doctor came in there and said, "Well, what do you think?" I said, I don't know what to think, but I can tell you that doesn't look right. And that's when he told me, he goes, "You have a brain tumor. It's not cancerous or anything like that. But what you have what we call is an acoustic neuroma, which is basically a fatty tumor on your brain, which is and it basically it's just a brain tumor is what it is.
Right,
I mean,
right.
make a long story short, and so it's got your spinal cord pushed way over,
Holy
and
cow.
so it has to come out. So lo and behold, you would think that no more brain than I have, you can never play tennis or whatever, but
Come on
evidently
now.
it's kind of tight quarters in there.
Right.
So they went in there and they cut open cut my skull up out and went in there and took both of it out, and so now they put me back together. So now I as a side effect, I don't walk as well at all. As a matter of fact, I walk around like I'm drunk, which is kind of funny because I don't drink, but it looks like I do. I can't hear out of my right side, my right ear at all. It's completely gone because the brain tumor grew up in the inside my ear canal. So I can't hear out of it at all. And so my speech is bad. I walk funny. I can't hear. And I'm right-handed, and my right arm has evidently a mind of its own because it'll just fly off and do stuff that I had no idea what it's doing. And so coordination-wise, I'm terrible. I can't get on a ladder. Just the normal stuff you would take for granted.
Right.
Every day, I have to put a lot of thought into it just to do it. So yeah, my days behind the wheel, I think probably as far as being a competitor driver, probably behind me for sure. Because I don't feel in my heart that I can do a good job, and there's way too much work that goes into this stuff to be the guy that decides whether you run good or not.
Right.
So I'll just let other guys do it, and I'll just watch them and critique them and tell them what they're doing wrong, because I'm real good at doing that. I can always tell you what you're doing wrong.
Right. With the economy back on the rise and interest rates coming down, if you're looking for a new home in the Panhandle area, give Levada Burrows McIntyre a call with Century 21 BE3. She's been serving the Panhandle, helping buyers and sellers achieve all of their real estate needs. Give her a call at 850-554-2180 or find her on her website at levadasales.com. So how is your rental program going? I mean, are your cars staying full most of the time? Are you following a series or a UMP series or anything of that nature?
We just do whatever. I mean, we have one car was the UMP legal car, and we probably I wouldn't say we stay full, but we stay as full as we want to be again. So I think the UMP car gets rented maybe 6 to 8 times a year. And it's 602 car. We actually just got it. And so we're just going to rent it out. Matter of fact, the first rental will be at Charlotte on the Speedway, at the dirt track at Charlotte.
Nice.
Coming up. And actually we have the UMP car rented out as well for that event. So,
nice.
Yeah. It's working okay. I mean, it's not good. I mean, it's not good. It's not as good as I want it to be, but we're building something from the ground floor. Because I mean, on the pavement level, I think guys are more used to the rental program and rental stuff.
Right.
On the dirt stuff, they're probably not used to it yet.
Well, and it's probably a little bit ahead of its time, but I'm thankful that you're doing that. Is your dad still running some of your running a car down there in South Florida?
Yeah, matter of fact, he just raced last night over Volusia. I think he runs 6th or something like that. I mean,
That's awesome.
85 years old.
That's
85 years
awesome.
old, and he's still climbing upon the wheel. And again, I always tell people he's lost a little zing off the old fastball there, but he still does a good job. And yeah, the only thing is, I don't really think he has any knowledge of the term budget. Because he spends money like it's going out of style. Oh my gosh, that old man spends a lot of money.
He's a racer.
Yeah, when his son's building his cars and maintaining, I mean, shoot, you know, hey, he raised you. Now you got to support his racing habit.
Yeah, that's what people tell me all the time. I was like, man, I had no idea it was going to be this rough. But yeah, he's definitely making up for lost time. That's for sure. So
I'm telling you, man, guys like your dad, Buzzy Reutimann, and Red Farmer, man, they give me hope for the future.
I just hope I'm in good enough shape to do it at that age myself.
Yeah, I mean, they give me hope. You know what I'm saying? They're still getting it done at 85, and I think Red's 94 now. 94, 95.
Yeah. Red's up there for sure. I mean, and I always tell the joke now. It's like, heck, both my parents are probably in better shape than I am. I mean, the man, he'll just jump in the car and go out and race and come in and drive back home and whatever. Heck, if I raced last night, I would still be at the racetrack just trying to get out of the car. So.
Right.
He's about to turn 94. Get this, his birthday was October 15th in 1932.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
God bless him.
Uh-huh.
I can't wait to I can't wait to interview your dad and talk about the old times and running Hialeah Speedway and all that old stuff back in the day. I think that's going to be a great interview. I really look forward to that.
Oh yeah, the old man has got more stories than you can shake a stick at. So yeah, I mean, he'll definitely. All you have to do is ask him one question, and he sit down the mic, and then he'll take over the rest. Because he definitely, there's two things he likes to do. He likes to tell old stories, and he likes to talk. So,
man,
yeah,
I'm excited. I'm excited to listen to that. That's going to be an awesome podcast, man. Well, David, again, you certainly didn't have to do this for us. And I'm forever grateful and thankful, my friend, for you sitting down with us today and taking this time and letting us interview you. I hope that our listeners get a lot out of it. I know you just did the Dale Jr. download, but I wanted to kind of hit on some other stuff and really highlight you in a different light. And again, you've always been good to me, even when you didn't have to be. And I certainly appreciate that. Yes, sir. I mean, anytime you want me to come on, I'll be happy to. Well, man, we certainly appreciate it. Jake, you got anything else, buddy?
Man, just got to thank these wonderful sponsors that make this possible. If you're not doing anything this coming weekend, Hunt the Front Super Dirt Series. Going to be some big names at that track. We've talked about it. Wrestling Friday night and whole thing. We talk about bringing different forms of entertainment to the racetrack. They're doing it.
Absolutely.
So you'll make sure to go see them. Blackwater Bookkeeping, Moorsight Solutions, Window World of Pensacola, and Levada Burrows Century 21 BE3.
Well, man, we certainly do appreciate our sponsors. But without our sponsors, this podcast couldn't be possible at all. Well, David, again, buddy, thank you so much for sitting down and talking with us. And I'll call you this week and we'll catch up some more. But, man, I certainly do appreciate you, boss. All right. Sounds good. Thanks, sir. All right, buddy. All right, bye. And that is the David Reutimann podcast on episode number 36 in the books.
This has been a production of the Short Track Media Group, LLC. Any unauthorized recording, reproduction, or distribution without express written consent from the Short Track Media Group, LLC is strictly prohibited and will result in legal action.